Hi my friends, welcome back to another week of painting. Happy painting. This week I'm painting something a little unusual, a little different, but I think you'll like it. Now, I have the finished painting here, all right? So I decided to, I was kind of rushing at the time, so I decided to just do the intro at the end because I was kind of pressed for time. So I'm going to show you what we are painting today. This is it. A beautiful cityscape. Isn't that gorgeous? It turned out very well. I'm very happy with this. So if you would like to learn how to paint a cityscape like this, using very simple techniques, and we'll have a lot of fun along the way as well. Nice, light-hearted, fun, and easy painting. Okay, we'll keep it nice and simple. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Get your paint brushes and your canvas ready if you want to follow me along. And I will see you in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start by putting masking tape across the horizon line. Now my canvas is very wide. It's 24, no, I'm wrong. It's 30 inches by 8. Very wide panoramic canvas. And I saw this in the art store one day and I just picked it up. I thought it might be nice for a painting like this. Perfect, in fact, for a painting like this. So let's put some masking tape right across there. Around a third of the way up, maybe less. It's up to yourself. I'll tell you what colours I have. A nice simple palette today. Titanium white, phaylo blue, lamp black, a little crimson, a little Naples yellow and some magenta. We may not need magenta, but I thought it might be nice just to warm it slightly perhaps, add a touch of pink here and there. But we'll see as we go anyway. So let's start. This is going to be fun. I have some linseed oil with some turpentine, or turpentine with linseed oil, whichever you prefer. I have some tissue, and I have lots of brushes. Okay, lots of new, old, lots of different varieties of brushes. And I'm going to start with, now I primed this once. This was actually an old painting, which I did for a tutorial a very long time ago. I found it there just in the corner of my studio and I said, you know what, let's just paint over it. So I undercoated 2 undercoats over this painting, left it dry, and it's now lovely and smooth. You can see little parts where the knife, the palette knife, were trying to scrape off the old paint. But look, it's absolutely fine just for something like this. It's only a demonstration anyway. So let's go, let's have a bit of fun. Now, I'm not going to worry about drawing all the buildings. A lot of people would go along and draw all your buildings in bit by bit with a pencil, taking ages and ages, and then they might try and paint around all those little buildings like this. That just takes ages. It takes too long. I'm just going to go right across the whole sky. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I need to get myself a brush. Let's get a nice brush now. Let's find a nice brush we can use for this. I need quite a large brush, but I don't need to go too large really. Here we are. A nice medium soft brush, okay? This is a number 7 flat. This should do. Let's start making a very dark blue for the top. So let's dampen our brushes, dry them on some tissue quickly. Let's go right up into phaylo blue. Look at that. I love phaylo blue, especially for a scene like this. It's absolutely perfect. And white. Now look how vibrant that is. So vibrant, it really is. Then let's take a hint of lamp black, a bit of black. And because there's a kind of a greeny hue in the blue and the lamp black, it goes kind of a greeny blue, a dark grey kind of a greeny blue. We'll take a look at that now. Okay, that's a bit grey for my liking. So to warm that now slightly, let's take some more phaylo. I'm going to try a hint of magenta. And I think that might just make the blue that bit more vibrant. I think that's good. I'm going to go with that. Right across. Now we'll see how that's moving on this canvas because I gave it 2 coats of primer. If this was the canvas that I just purchased and if it was just unpainted, it would be very dry and you would find yourself using huge amounts of paints to cover the canvas. So that's why I always prime my canvases well, most of the time. Sometimes I don't, but if you're painting like in a large area with a sky like this, you really do need to have your canvas primed, I think, even if it's a new canvas, because look how easy that's going across. It's lovely and smooth, and it's just flying across the canvas nice and easily for me. And I love that. I hate canvases that are very dry and that kind of soak up the paint, especially those cheaper canvases. So I purchase, most of the time I would purchase a cheaper canvas, but then I would prime it once or twice. And when you do that, they're just like expensive canvases. They really are. Now, a little bit of darker colour up there. You could use French ultramarine for this as well. That would be a nice colour. Give it a nice rich blue. I'm not a fan of ultramarine blue, to be quite honest. I like the phaylo. It's just it's much more rich and earthy. So it's a more kind of a natural blue for me. I just prefer it. Now, I'm going to go across right away. You can see there's a bit of a silhouette on the sides, isn't there, which is quite nice. Go across there like that. Let's get some darker colour again on the sides. So creating this nice kind of silhouette. You see the way I'm just kind of going up at a slight angle with the dark colour to create a silhouette on just the edges. Okay? Up like that, and then I'll go across. That will just soften everything across, and go across the top as well. Look, let's make it nice and dark across the top. And I'm just using, at this stage now, just paint on its own, because if you make your canvas too wet, it gets very difficult to control your paint. So I put on a thinner coat, and then I put on a really thick coat if I want nice dark colours like this. I'll use just paint on its own, nothing else. And it really does work. I'm putting on plenty of paint on because I want to cover this nicely. I want to get it really nice and dark. So pull that across again, nice and dark up there. And you could use a soft blender brush as well for this if you like. Now, nice and bright in the middle. Let me just give my brush a quick wipe in some tissue there, get off some of that dirty colour. And let's take some phaylo blue and some white. And that'll give us a nice bright colour. So starting with this kind of a colour, I think, for now. I'll take a touch of turpentine, just a touch, because I just want to help it flow a little bit better. There we go. Bring that right down. Completely ignoring the fact that there's lots of buildings there in that skyline, okay? Just completely ignoring it. Imagine you're just painting a simple sky all the way across. Crisscross all the way. So Asha, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Asha requested this. She was having a little difficulty creating this type of a scene, and this is not something that I've done before, I'll be honest. But I thought a nice challenge. Do you know what I mean? Why not? I like to have a nice challenge every now and again and try something different from the ordinary landscapes. You know what I mean? It just keeps your skills kind of fresh. Well, not just skills. It keeps your thinking, the artist mind, nice and fresh. Do you know what I mean? And it helps you develop new skills. Okay. No, that's not bad, is it? I think now, just to add a little bit of colour to this, I'm going to introduce maybe a little magenta and a little crimson, some white. And I might introduce some of this, just a little, maybe across around the centre or something. It's really just to add a touch of colour rather than it just being blue. You know what I mean? And I think it'll just help warm the painting just ever so slightly. You can see it's barely going on. I'm barely touching the canvas with this now. I just want to touch a pink through there, that's all. I don't want to be too fussy with the sky. It's just a simple sky. Now, done. Job done. We're moving on to buildings. Buildings can be tricky. Alright. For buildings now, you would need a nice clean cut kind of a flat brush, a really nice new kind of a brush, okay? Try and find something that's nice and relatively flat. You don't want something that's kind of all sticking out all over the place. No, a nice little flat brush like that. And this is perfect. This will probably do me for all the buildings. So would you like me to zoom in, or should I stay as I am? I suppose I'll stay as I am for now. I'm going to start now with some nice real dark buildings, okay? I just dampened my brush, dried it, and take some black and blue. So we're going with real dark buildings first. Let's go. There's a nice big dark one over here on the left hand side, isn't there? Let's go right up. Now the canvas is kind of slightly at an angle towards me because of the camera, so I'm kind of slightly offset from the camera over here. So it's difficult for me to get a straight line looking at the canvas at an angle like this. It's difficult for me to get a straight line, so if this is slightly off straight, I do apologise. But let's try it now. You might see my face and my ball patch sticking into the camera just for a moment, so I apologise for that, okay? Let's just go boom, like that. Bring it right down. My hair is getting quite thin, admittedly, as time goes on. But you know what? Life could be a lot worse, isn't that right? It's only hair. I don't mind. And my wife doesn't mind either, by the way, so that's an important fact as well. Okay, more black. I think I'll go a bit higher with this. There's no kind of rule with this. You can really just make this your own, do whatever you like, okay? This is really just to get us started, isn't that right? So it's basically then just a lot of blues and blacks all the way across, okay? Let's go another one out here. Let's go across here with another one. Once I have the basic outlines done, I can go along then and start introducing lights, you know what I mean? Some lights colour into all of this as I go. So let's go across. Let's create now a lot of rooftop, building tops. Okay, that's what I'm doing, just creating a lot of building tops, poking up into the sky. You can even leave little gaps between them if you like. And let's try a little bit of black. It'll help you now if you want to draw this first with a little brush, you can, by all means. But really, there's no need. You don't really have to. What I do is I put in all the darks first, and then I'll just take some white, maybe with some blue, and I kind of flick in some lights here and there. So I'm just getting all of this silhouette done first, okay? That's my priority. Just go along, get all these things. So just little bits and pieces on top of them like that. Look, little details. They're not details really, they're just little brush strokes, that's all. And it just adds a little interest to them. So we have one poking up in the background back there. And by the way, you could do a lot of this with your palette knife. And I may still go at this later with the palette knife. Okay? Now let's take some white and go into some phaylo blue. Take some slightly lighter colours, maybe with a hint of magenta. Again, just to warm it, okay? And I'm not using thinners, I'm just using plenty of thick paint on my brush. Alright? Now, we have a nice little one here. Let's go with that. A bit darker, I would say. Let's get some richer blues. And just simple, straight brush strokes like that. So just go right across your canvas like this. Let's pop a nice little one up here. Let's go across like this. You could even just put a big band across here and then put lights and darks through it. There's lots and lots of different ways of doing this. type of a scene, all right? Lots of different ways. So look, a little black up there, and we could pop a little darkness down here, side of that, and one or two across here and there. So you can see I'm just kind of popping some darks through the colour. And already we're creating little buildings. Alright, it's that easy, it really is. It's just so much fun. Now I need more blue. And I thought this canvas would be perfect for this type of a scene. Absolutely perfect. So I said, why not use it? Isn't that right? We might as well use it. Now a little bit more blue. And I want to get some nice thick ones up here, okay? Real tall ones. The reference photograph really is I'm only looking at this reference photograph now just for colours, okay? To get an impression of the types of colour that are in there. You can add as many different types of buildings as you want, okay? You know, I could even do this without the reference photograph. I probably could easily. But it's just the colours in the photograph are just so nice, and I wanted to just use it as my own reference for those photographs, okay? Now, we have a nice little section of smaller ones here and there. So this brush now is perfect size, absolutely spot on. Take a little bit of black. A little bit of black in there. We can go down into a couple of smaller ones as well. We have lots of different types of buildings. Large, small, you name it. And it's simply just going across the canvas like this. I'll try a bit of crimson. Get some nice purpley ones. And we'll worry about all the little details in a moment, okay? Remember, just focus on getting everything blocked in. That's all you're trying to do. Now let's make some nice, really thick ones. Look, let's try a bit of purple and a bit of pink. All those colours. Magenta, little crimson. And the magenta is really nice. It's a beautiful colour. It gives a beautiful distance to your paintings. It really does. A little bit of pink, look. So we can be imaginative and add our own little touches into all of this. Now, let's sit back again and take a look. When I have all this done, I'm going to add some real kind of brightness down at the bottom of all of it. You see that beautiful glow we have? I can do all of that then last, okay? So not to worry. Let's go with a nice bluey one over here. We'll go for a nice thick one, will we? And we'll put a smaller one next to that. Take some magenta again. Pop a little pink one. Like that. Take a bit of black. Pop a little black around that. Little black in here and there. And I'm just pulling the black colour down. You see what I'm doing? So for the top of these, let's say they're in silhouette, okay? I'll just take a little black like that, maybe some crimson or something, and just drag it down and flick it away. So we have that lovely silhouette on the tops of the buildings, you see? Isn't that lovely? Just to give some light and shade and all that kind of thing. Let's go nice and dark with these ones over here. And a little crimson and black on top of these. So you're simply using your brush stroke to separate the buildings. That's really all you're doing. All right. So, see, getting across there now nicely, aren't we? Going along nicely. Try a little bit of lighter colour. Get some bright blues in here. Even though they're almost the same as the background, but still, they'll just add a little of interest, that's all. And let's put maybe a nice long one here. And I might just go up there and add maybe one or two very tall ones just over here with some rich blue, okay? Let's take maybe a hint of black in that. Subdue it slightly. I don't want them sticking out like a sore thumb either, you see. I want them to fit nicely with the rest of the painting. Here's a little black. Let's try some magenta and pop one or two in between here. You can cut in front of them as well. You know, all of these buildings now, you see, we're going to be cutting in front of a lot of these with different buildings, okay? So bear that in mind. And just finish across here, look, with just a nice big square one. Let's just make it your own. So I have the basic layout of all of my buildings. Yes, I have it all done. So now let's start adding some nice darks to these first. Let's get some darks first, actually. Let's go with some blacks, okay? Black and crimson and a bit of blue. Let's go really crazy now with some nice dark colours. So from the tops and some of them, I'm going to pull down and I'm really kind of just separating them in some areas. Another one in front of that maybe. We could have one cutting in front of two together. So now we're creating a layered effect, you see. Nice layered effect. We really don't have to do any more with this. With these darks, we can move on to lighter colours and get some glows. Real nice glows in there. Because you have to remember, we have all the windows and all that kind of stuff to do as well. Okay, now comes the exciting part. This is where the whole thing sort of comes to life. All right, we're going to be mixing lots of blue and lots of white with this. Let's take some phaylo blue and let's take lots of white. And I'm going to get a little magenta as well, just to warm it ever so slightly, okay? The magenta, it just gives it that little bit of a kick. Tiny bit of magenta, all right? Now, let's see what happens. Let's have a look and see. Let's try this. So, I'm going to start from the bottom and I'm going to flick this colour upwards like that, okay? Now, you can see already how that lovely glow comes into play. And you can soften them together. And leave your brush strokes. You see the little brush strokes? Okay? Leave all of those. They're absolutely fantastic. We need those. I'm going to put a nice bright section up here. Maybe one or two around there. So lots of bright buildings, kind of catching the light of the night sky. And of course that glow from the centre as well coming up. Now take more magenta and let's lighten some of these. So then we're going light against dark, you see. With the buildings, with some of them. And that will push the other ones right back then into the distance, you see. Remember to clean your brush every now and then. So we're slowly building it up. Slowly, slowly, slowly. Let's take some phaylo blue, some white, and let's get some nice real bright blues in there. Now with this one, I want to just go up a little like that. And keep cleaning your brush, just to keep the colours nice and bright, clean and bright. Okay. So it's a case of just going along like this. And we're really just trying to add some depth to the buildings, that's all. That's all we're doing. Little depth. Okay, let's go over here. Let's even phthalo blue on its own makes a beautiful colour. Let's add a bit of white into this. Now, there we go. So far so good. The next thing I'm going to do is go along the bottom with some real bright colour. I really want to lighten all of these now just along the bottom edge, okay? I'm going to take some white, some phthalo blue. Now we need lots and lots of white in this, okay? Lots of white. We want a real bright glow. Take loads of white. You could do this now, a lot of this with the palette knife. You really could. You know, it's up to yourself. So look, I'm going to go along the bottom and I'm going to flick it up. Clean your brush every now and then, just to keep it nice and bright and clean. And I'm even coming from the masking tape, okay? So start on your masking tape and just flick it upwards. And that gives you a nice soft flick then up into the buildings. And you're not seeing your brush strokes then, you see. Let's go back into lots of white, little phthalo blue. Clean, clean, clean. Cleaning the brush, that's probably the most important part. And I know now this looks a little strange and a little funny, I know, but wait now till we get our blender brush and we soften all of this upwards very slightly with the blender brush. It'll make a huge difference. And then we take off our masking tape and you'll see exactly what I mean. More white. We're really just suggesting that kind of glow coming up into the sky. Okay, now I'm going to try my palette knife. I'm going to take some, try this palette knife actually, take some white, and I'm going to try with this. It might not work, but I want to try it anyway. Scraping some white just across the centre, upwards. Now if you're not confident with your palette knife, using a knife like this. You can't just leave it as it is, really. You don't have to use a palette knife, okay? And I maybe just put a little hint of it over here as well. So, now the next thing I want to do is get my soft brush, okay? Very soft brush. Give it a bit of a wipe here just to make sure it's nice and soft. And I'm very gently going to soften this upwards, look, into those buildings. Very gently. It's just really to soften out the brush strokes from the palette knife, that's all. Or the knife marks, rather. And then we can soften them downwards. And then we could even very gently go across them like this, here and there, just to create a nice sort of a misty look about the cityscape, okay? It's really, all I'm trying to do now at this stage, really, honestly, is to try and just create a little depth and a little distance in the painting. That's all I'm trying to do, okay? But you don't really have to go to this extreme. Now, next job. I'm going to take a little detailed brush and I want to get lots of nice detail in this. When I say detail, I don't mean actual painting little tiny windows and all that kind of thing. What I mean is just the impression of details. So, for example, let's go up here, look. And we could imagine that there are lots of little spikes, towers and all that kind of thing, and antennas. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. On the tops of the buildings. That's what I mean, that kind of detail. Now, let me just fix my brush because it's not pointy enough. Suggesting little bits and bobs on some of the buildings, okay? It's really only just to catch your imagination and kind of bring in the eye a little bit. Do you understand what I mean? You can see what I mean? Just adding those small touches. I think makes the world of difference. You don't have to do every single building like this. It's just really tiny little marks with the brush. That's all it is. Even a couple of horizontal lines just to suggest little bits between the buildings or on the buildings even. And you see then how this right away just adds a little interest to the painting, doesn't it? It's kind of drawing your eye into the painting. So I'm going to do the very same now with some bright colour, and I'd say even just some white on its own. Now, I think I need to switch brushes. I'm going to get a pointier brush. Look, a really small pointy brush. This is a new brush. I love using a new brush, it's fantastic, isn't it? Okay, let's go here. So now all these little tiny dabs of white are going to just sparkle on the painting. You see how that immediately catches your eye. Now, let's try suggesting a couple of little windows, especially in this one here. It's basically simply just get your brush, point your brush, pop some little dabs across, look. And you only need to be here and there because not every single office is lighting. So just, you're really only suggesting to the viewer lots and lots of windows, little lights. So you see now how that immediately brings it to life, doesn't it? Just a few here and there on the buildings. It's simply across horizontal, little dots, small dabs, some light, some dark. Couple of vertical ones here and there. You see, just, and immediately we're starting to see a cityscape, aren't we? Now I'm going to put a little dome on the top of this one. It's really just to break up the landscape, that's all. Couple of bright spots here and there. Especially now as we go down into the misty side of things. Couple of little sparkles here and there as well, look. And I'm going to use a palette knife as well for some of this soon. Isn't this fun? So you can create a nice city kind of escape, just very simply, okay? Remember, just try not to overthink your painting. Do you know? Try not to go crazy with it. Just keep it simple and try and have some fun when you're doing it. That's probably the one single most important aspect of painting, all right? If you can't enjoy it and have fun when doing it, then what's the point? Okay? What is the point? You need to be able to just switch off, have a bit of fun. Just get rid of all those problems out of your life. Just sit down and relax. Now I'm going to take some Naples yellow just to create a very bright glow, okay? And the Naples yellow will just make it a very bright white, understand? It's really nice to try something like this for a change as well. It feels nice and fresh. Do you know what I mean? So there we go, just suggesting tiny windows. You could probably even get away with just using a fan brush for this and doing very light little dabs with your fan brush on flat. So like this, for example, you could probably get away with doing little touches of that as well. But I think this is just a much nicer kind of impression. Okay. I'm going to move on to my palette knife and let's get some nice bright splashes of colour down here, look. It's basically to suggest the kind of the streets, all the lights on the streets and all that kind of thing. All nice and bright down there, just by the masking tape, okay? Just above the masking tape. Right across. You see, just creating a nice, like, a kind of a texture on the canvas. We're not painting individual little lights, all right? It's just an impression. And we go across here. You see what I mean? You can maybe put in one or two slightly higher ones. You could even, if you want, get your palette knife and just drag a little bit down here and there. Maybe to create the impression of little landmarks over there that are lighting up the night sky. And there we are. Now, I'm going to just keep dabbing on some of these upwards, just to almost kind of soften it up into some of the buildings, all right? I'm very gently touching it, just very, very gently. Okay, done. Let's peel off our masking tape. So now, how's that? Nice and simple, wasn't it? You see how I kept that nice and simple, just little touches. Let's do the water. Water now is just very, very simple. Okay, let's take some blue. Let's take some magenta. And let's have a look now, okay? I'm going to darken it slightly. Let's go across here and create a nice line right across that horizon line, okay? That's what we would call the horizon line. Where the land meets the water is the horizon line on a painting. Right across. It doesn't matter if you go up into these slightly. We're going to be running our palette knife across this anyway, okay? Just remember, if you want to get a nice straight line like this, take your time, but lean down nice and hard on your brush. That just gives you a straighter line, a much straighter line. So, here we go. I need more phthalo blue on the palette. A tiny touch of thinners. I really hope you're enjoying these tutorials, by the way. If you do wish to support me, and I really do appreciate it, I really do, because, you know, supporting me means I can keep going every week with tutorials for materials and paints and all that kind of thing. And it just really, really helps in a huge way. So if you do want to support me, if you like my work, if you think you're learning something from these, please just pop over to Patreon. You can always donate on the PayPal button below somewhere. I think there's a PayPal button in the link if you want to donate there. Or, best thing to do is just to pop into Patreon. You'll see the link at the end of the video. And I think it's like €3 per month for all the extra tutorials on my Patreon page, okay? Which is a very small cost, really. It's a very small cost, €3. And there are lots and lots and lots of extra tutorials, full in-depth tutorials over on Patreon as well, and some of them are absolutely stunning and you will learn a lot. With these kind of tutorials here on YouTube, I tend to kind of go quite quickly through them, but over on Patreon I really kind of take my time and I explain, and we just have a bit of fun and a bit of crack and a bit of banter, you know, a bit of fun along the way, and they're really in-depth tutorials. So it's just a way for you to support me. It really does help, I promise, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So there we go. A nice simple line of paint going across. I know it looks a little dark, but it's just real dark blue like the sky. Now, we get some more blue. I tell you what, we're going through this blue, aren't we? Blue and some black and some magenta. And I'm just going to darken the sides here, okay? Just to reflect the darkness in the sky overhead. Understand? Lots of paint on your brush, no thinners. Go right up to the side here, and then start softening it across as it comes down, you see? So we have a nice dark on either side. It's almost black here, isn't it? In some places, it's almost pure black. So there we go. Now, I'm going to start adding some light. I'm going to start literally with my palette knife, or I could use a brush, I suppose. I'll go back to that flat brush. I'm going to start just literally dragging some lights down all the way across, okay? Let's get some phthalo blue, little white. We can start with some of these. And look, wherever there's a light, pick out a light somewhere, take a bit more white, and simply let it flick down. Look, in between the dark. So we have darks, we already had a dark colour, you know what I mean? So it's just some lights, okay? Whenever you see lighter colour buildings, just flick them down, like this. And we're going to be pulling all of this down with our palette knife and our soft blender brush as well. You can see already we're starting to get these reflections. Just keep it simple. Now let's go here. Let's go one here. So we start first with the lighter colours, then we'll put in some of the rich darker colours, alright? Let's go across here. And pull them right down now, don't be shy. Because everything on a river is kind of elongated, it's sort of stretched because you're looking across the river. So the reflections will always be very kind of stretched, if you know what I mean. Okay, well that will do fine. The next thing I'm going to do, clean my brush, and let's just simply go for some nice dark colour. Some black and some phthalo blue. Let's try that. And wherever you have a nice dark building, so here for example, okay, you just pull those down like that. You see? And we have one here. And it's really a lot of fun. So you can get the idea. It's really just have some fun, go along, pop lots of colours in. And already we can start to see this come to life. Let's go with some dark blue as well. And let's put some darks from this side up. Okay. And let's get some dark from this side up. I know now my brush strokes aren't perfect because I'm kind of really at an angle now when I'm painting over on this side. I'm really over at an angle, so it's very tricky for me. Okay, I'm going to stop at that. I am now going to pull these down. Okay, first of all, I'm just going to pull these down just to soften the brush strokes together, if you know what I mean. Now I am going up, and you see that line, that very rich line? I'm going over just into that, and I'm pulling. You see the marks we done with our palette knife earlier? I'm just going to pull those down as well into that paint underneath. You see that? I'm just going a tiny bit over the canvas, over that line, rather, and I'm pulling that right down into the reflections, you see? Understand what I mean? Just grab those little tiny lumps of paint and pull them down. Now I can see it's all going off at a bit of an angle, isn't it? That's the trick. That's the tricky part when you're painting something that's off to one side. Now I'm going to pull them across just to try and straighten the lines a little, okay? I just want to kind of drag some of the lines with my brush, and that moves the paint. It drags the paint along and it straightens the lines a little as well. There we go. That's better, I think. All right. Now, we're going very well, aren't we? The next thing I'm going to do is take a flat palette knife. I'm going to go into some white. And I'm going to go up to the horizon line and simply, this is the tricky part, okay? Pull some of that down here and there, okay? I'm going to soften that back down again into the water. I just want to create that nice glow, the reflection of that nice glow, that nice brightness in the water, that's all. Okay, let me stand back and take a look. Now, I'm going to put in a couple of solid dots. What I mean by that is, say here for example, I'm going to put in a couple of real solid white dots. And I'm going to put in a little reflection then of these. I'm going to pull them kind of downwards. Do you understand what I mean? So, I'm then going to take a little paint on the tip of my palette knife, and I'm simply, this is tricky now, you need kind of steady hands for this. I'm going to pull, wherever there's a little strong dot or a bright colour like this, pull it down. Because we can use our soft brush then to pull these straight down, you see. I'll show you now what I mean. So I'll take my soft blender brush and just where I put those marks, okay, I'll pull them down. Now you can make them kind of more prominent if you like on the water. You see that? Again, they're not straight. I tell you one thing, my eyesight is absolutely dreadful. It really is. I need to get my eyes tested because I think as time goes on, it gets much more difficult, doesn't it? Now, we'll do that. I'm going to just pull those down. You can see now we have a nice little light coming down. And my friends, we're almost finished, really. You don't have to go much further other than maybe put in one or two bright lines, just cut across here and there. Just to suggest the river bank way over. See what I mean? Just to suggest it ever so lightly. Just separates the bank. Separates the buildings from the water. I'll use a little black as well. And I'm going to go back in then to my white again. Okay. And my friends, we are done. Simple as that. Wasn't that a lot of fun? So you can go along, you can just keep adding little windows and all that kind of thing. You can keep going as much as you like. But just be careful not to overdo it, because if you go crazy with this, I'm going to take one or two yellows as well, look. And the yellows will just really, just the Naples yellow by the way, that will really add a bit of a sparkle. So you see this little dots of Naples yellow? They really just add a touch of sparkle. You probably can't see this now on camera, but they just brighten the whites. They really brighten the whites up and they catch the eye. And we can go especially around the middle, you see? So you can see now how that really catches your attention. And it's just simply little dots, little dabs with the brush. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lot of whites around, maybe in this centre building here. I think just one or two in the centre of the painting will really draw your eye into the middle. And that's what we want to do. We want to catch people's eyes and bring them right into the middle of the painting. If you can do that, then you've done a good job. Lots of little white dabs, look. And my friends, we're done. Thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed this. It has been immense fun, it really has. All I have to do is sign. Yes. And my friends, this is Easy Oil Painting. If you like what you see, leave a comment. I sincerely thank you. Let me zoom in and take a look at what we've created. So from here I know it looks like a lot of detail and all that kind of stuff, but you can see it was just simply a palette knife. And lots of little dabs with the brush. And there we are. Let me just unhook this a moment. Let's see if I can get this camera. No, I won't. Actually, I won't. I'll just leave the camera where it is because I don't want to disrupt the video. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, my friends. As I was saying, if you want to support me, pop off the Patreon, take a look and see what you think. And in the meantime, Asha, thank you very much for your request. I hope you've enjoyed that. Have fun painting it and let me know what you think and let me know how you're getting on. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email me. It's stephenconway12@gmail.com. This is Easy Oil Painting signing out. Have a great day everyone. Thank you so much for watching and happy painting.